2 capsules. So
CCLS.
Roger.
Monitoring those procedures here, and we're coming up on about L minus 22 minutes to launch. And around this time during the last launch attempt, our team worked through what you may have seen a suit pressurization issue. They worked very quickly around this time in the countdown to make sure that everything was going smoothly with this. But when we switched to internal power at L minus 18 minutes, that triggered a small voltage trip, and flight software correctly identified it and turned off the fans. So we quickly turned them back on, just like you would do with your computer, off and on. And today we're going to turn the fan off when we move over to internal power so it doesn't trip again. Then we will turn it back on after. The real difference is that crew will lower their visors about 5 minutes later this time. That action would usually be taken around now or a minute or so from now, and we will listen for that in just a few minutes. The Capcom will tell the crew to put their visors down at that time, and that is a configuration that is needed for proper airflow through their suit. In an emergency, they could pressurize their suits.
Go ahead.
Pogo suppressor charge is complete.
Roger.
LCSYS.
Go ahead.
All secondary. Secondary.
Yeah, you're breaking up, SYS.
All secondary beacons are supplied on RF link.
I did copy that. Please check your headset.
All right, as I was saying, that in an emergency, they would be able to pressurize their suits quickly if needed. And it's a little different for them this time because, as we mentioned during this broadcast, their helmet is really more of a visor. It lays back like a hoodie on their shirt, and they pull it forward and then just zip it up. And this config also calls for them to deflate their lumbar support and secure their restraints from launch. So once we get to that point, it's really buckle up. It's almost go time. And then the crews will report back when finished. And then while we're talking around L minus 19, we're also going to be looking for the Starliner readiness poll for terminal count. That will happen on a side channel. So I'll be listening for that, and I'll let you know when we hear it. We do have a few polls coming up. That one is short. It will take place in the Boeing Mission Control Center, or BMCC, here in Florida. That is where the spacecraft launch conductor, Brian Gartner, will pull people in that room in charge of the propulsion system. Yeah, you see the room there on your screen.
Oh, minus 20 minutes.
PNE1, reinitiate AHB charging.
Roger.
RLM, verify redline monitor and event table or in the correct configuration for terminal count.
The lumbar support.
Verify.
RC, verify solar radiation, acceptable for launch.
Verified.
Right, you might have heard, kind of came in faintly.
Starliner copies.
They asked them to go ahead and deflate their lumbar support. Wasn't sure if you're going to hear a little bit more about that. But again, there will be 3 calls coming up on this Starliner readiness poll for terminal count. They will pull the mission support room manager or MSR. After launch, the BMCC turns into mission support as things shift over to Houston. They will also pull the spacecraft test conductor who monitors our power systems.
Switch to channel 1. All personnel and visitors remain in present position until launch. Maintain operational silence in the LCC.
This is the LC with a terminal count briefing. If a condition exceeds a launch constraint anytime after the terminal count status check, the observer shall announce hold, hold, hold on channel 1, identify their station, and briefly state the reason for the hold.
So, Lauren, as we were mentioning earlier, there's been traffic on multiple side nets, and that announcement that you just heard is Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo now bringing the team out from the individual subsystem nets, bringing everybody to the command channel, channel 1, for the final minutes of the countdown here. So we're gonna start to hear more traffic on the command channel as we start to do our final configuration steps for launch. So we're going to hear a couple of things. We're going to hear
minus 18 minutes.
Flight control, perform launch on time verification.
Roger.
We're going to hear some final avionics checks like that last call. We're going to hear hold fire switch verification. The range hold fire system allows representatives from Space Launch Delta 45 a hold button in the up the road at the Morrell Operations Center. So if there's an issue or range safety issue that comes up, they can press a button and automatically stop our sequencer. So that's called a hold fire check. Those hold fire switches will be configured shortly, and we'll also start to hear calls about wrapping up our helium bottle charging on both the first and second stage.
And Dylan, as you mentioned, with the traffic on the loops increasing a little bit, you at home may notice that we are speaking less. And so we are going to be listening to some of these
Launch
things
on time verified.
as they happen live with
Roger.
you. And we feel it's important for you to be able to...
Go ahead.
AHB charging reestablished and at flight mass.
Roger.
minus 17 minutes.
OSM, place SRB ignition SNA switch in the enable position.
SRB ignition enabled.
Verify FCO, RCO, and OSM hold fire switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
All right, we're going to send it over to NASA's Daryl Nail at Hangar 88. Daryl.
All right, thank you very much. And getting a final look at the weather, I can tell you this, it's a beautiful day to fly. Outside, our launch weather officer told us that there's no change in the forecast. We are 90% go, and what a beautiful shot of our beaches here from the courtesy of our chopper team here at the Kennedy Space Center. Folks coming out to enjoy the launch and an amazing day. Weather, no changes again. Low-topped cumulus clouds on land, which you see some of it there, but because they're low-topped, that's not a concern. When a rocket flies through a big, thick cumulus cloud, it can trigger a lightning strike, but those clouds are not the kind that can do that, according to Launch Weather Officer Melody Lovin. And so we're good to go there. We also have a launch visibility is always a factor here in the Southeast. Can you see the rocket and from where? And our friends at United Launch Alliance provided us with this graphic so you can see about which point in the launch you would see the rocket. If you're within the first 2 inner circles, you should be able to see the solid rocket boosters jettison a minute after launch. Folks in the Orlando and Central Florida area will be able to see it about 90 seconds of flight. And then it'll come into view for much of the rest of the state after more than about 2 minutes, including Tampa on the west coast of Florida. The southeast corner of Georgia might be able to see the Atlas Centaur separation, which happens after 3 minutes of flight. Again, we're looking good here at the ASOC. Richard Jones polled his team, the NASA operations manager.
15 minutes.
And all of them are go.
LC flight, channel 1 and air to ground 1 are now merged, going to air to ground 1.
Roger.
We'll send it back to the host desk.
LC flight, air to ground 1, ready for contact with Starliner on channel 1.
Roger. Starliner, LC, com check on channel 1.
Those are comm checks again.
LC, Starliner, loud and clear.
I have you loud and clear also.
and our astronauts who you see there. Again, this is the test
Starliner,
flight.
Houston, ComCheck, Air Ground 1.
Houston, Starliner, loud and clear.
Houston has you loud and clear on Air Ground 1.
Test flight, and Boeing is working towards certification. To do that, there are a total of 87 flight test objectives and many more operational capability checkouts. So take a look at some of the main objectives with the crew on board. I'll go through a couple of them here. So they will demonstrate the performance of crew-related equipment. The crew will perform hatch operations and transfer emergency equipment. They will also evaluate the vehicle and transfer cargo while in a docked configuration. They'll conform functionality of manual piloting and deorbit with a successful separation of the crew module from the service module. And finally, they will demonstrate Starliner's entry and descent. 13 minutes and 24 seconds from only the 6th time NASA astronauts will launch on a new spacecraft designed for crew. And if you're curious about the previous 5 flights, we have you covered. Check out our video here. Mercury Redstone 3 was the first test flight. Alan Shepard, May 5th, 1961.
Gemini 3 with astronauts Gus Grissom and John Young launched March 23rd, 1965.
Apollo 7, October 11th, 1968, with Wally Schirra, Don Isley, and Walt Cunningham.
STS-1 launched with astronauts John Young and Robert Crippen, and it launched April 12th, 1981.
Starliner, Houston, your suit fan Bravo is repowered. It looks good. Please close your visors. Column closed.
We saw video there of Demo 2, May 2020, Doug Hurley, Bob Benkin.
And then, of course, today's NASA's and Boeing's crew flight test with Butch Wilmore, and Sonny Williams.
You know, Mike, 12 minutes and 15 seconds to go. How are you feeling?
I am excited. I'm grateful to ULA and Boeing and NASA team that we are sharing this historic moment together. Go Starliner.
Yeah, our hearts and well wishes are with Butch and Sonny as they make history testing what is poised to be the second commercial crew vehicle that is certified to ferry people to and from the International Space Station. So with 11 minutes and 46 seconds to go, let's send it back over to ULA's Dylan Rice and Boeing's Lauren Brennicke to walk us through the final moments of today's launch countdown. Let's do it, guys.
Let's do it, Megan. We just heard the Starliner readiness poll is a go. We know the crew's visors are down now, so we are moving along smoothly into the final 11 minutes and 30 seconds of this countdown. This is an instantaneous launch window today, which means that we will launch when the orbital path for the ISS aligns with the Space Coast. Once we get into orbit, Starliner will be working to catch up with the space station, eventually reaching speeds of more than 17,500 miles per hour. It'll take about 25 hours or so to get there. And we are going to be watching here any minute.
Minus 11 minutes.
For the crew access
arm control, so the crew access arm for launch.
Roger.
Right on cue. Crew access arm about to start moving away from the spacecraft. And Dylan, we will watch it move very slowly today, but it could move much faster if needed.
That's right, Lauren. It takes about 2 minutes to rotate the 120 degrees back away from Starliner to its stowed position and latched position on the crew access tower. Here we go. But we could, in the event of an emergency, redeploy it in less than 15 seconds.
It's amazing that it can do that. We hope to not have to ever see that happen. After liftoff today, Brandy and Jim will continue commentary from Houston through ascent, spacecraft separation, and the orbital insertion burn. We will have the shot of Butch and Sonny inside Starliner until the moment of launch, and then we will get it again when we get to the ISS.
Minus 10 minutes.
Flight, verify CST 100 on internal power.
Verified.
Starliner, configure ordnance for launch.
Touch and win.
All right, the spacecraft is running completely on its own now. and they are configuring ordnance for launch. That means the devices that initiate our separation events are ready to support both nominal and contingency operations that,
Roger.
that happen or could happen during ascent.
So, Lauren, we're just about 2.5 minutes now away from our terminal count status check. The terminal count status check is the final report from each operator indicating that their system, whether it be a ground control system or a launch vehicle system, is ready to execute the final 4 minutes of the countdown to launching the rocket. At this point, if there were an issue, the anomaly team would be discussing it, but nothing like that has happened right now. All's quiet. I am expecting to hear all members of the team report go when pulled by Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo.
And we're actually hearing on a side channel that they are preparing for the launch vehicle systems poll. This is the long one. A lot of people view this as their favorite poll. It's kind of fun to listen to them list off each system, and then that team will give a final go or no go for launch. And we will be able to watch cameras on the rocket today, and live telemetry feeding back will provide a real-time look at the spacecraft model when video isn't possible during the ascent as it moves through the dynamic phases.
L minus 8 minutes.
Under 8 minutes before Butch and Sunny head back to a place they consider home. Both of them have spent 2 different stints of about 6 months on the International Space Station, and they are thrilled to be going back for a 3rd time. Sunny told me she even cried the last time she left the space station because she didn't know if she would ever go back. So this flight is a dream for her.
LC arm control.
Go ahead.
Drew axis arms stowed for launch.
Roger. LC switch to ready position. All steps are complete prior to status check.
Let's listen in to Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo conduct that final terminal count status check as we prepare for launch.
L minus 7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion,
Go.
hydraulics,
Go.
pneumatics,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
water,
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion,
Go.
pneumatics,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
LH2,
Go.
has gas,
Go.
electrical systems, airborne,
Go.
ground,
Go.
facility,
Go.
RFFTS,
Go.
flight control,
Go.
GCQ,
Go.
op support,
Go.
comm,
Go.
umbilicals,
Go.
arm control,
Go.
ECS,
Go.
redline monitor,
Go.
quality,
Go.
op safety manager,
Go.
ULA safety officer,
Go.
vehicle system engineer,
Go.
anomaly chief,
Go.
range coordinator,
Clear to proceed.
flight director,
Houston flight is go.
Starliner,
Starliner go.
launch director,
You have permission to launch.
proceeding with the count. ALC, verify T0 is set for 14:52:15 Zulu.
Verified.
Starliner, net is clear.
Thank you, LC. For everybody listening, just a thought. Sonny and I, as we were traveling to the pad, we saw many American flags, and many of you were waving flags at us. And then as we reached the pad, we look up, and of course there's that American flag on the side of the white room. Also one on the side of the rocket itself. And we know that that represents unity and resilience and unified efforts for the common good. And that's what Sonny and I have witnessed this last month. Each of you displaying what this nation's forefathers envisioned, a people committed to God, family, and country, a people who use their gifts and talents for the common good, and are passionate and tough. And we all know that when the going gets tough, and it often does, the tough get going. And you have. And Sonny and I are honored to share this dream of spaceflight with each and every one of you. So with that, LC, let's get going. Now let's put some fire in this rocket, and let's push it to the heavens where all these tough Americans have prepared it to be.
Let's go, Calypso. Take us to space and back.
LC flight, Starliner configured for terminal count.
On my mark,
Roger.
the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Clocks have
3:55.
resumed for
Ground
on-time
power is enabled.
liftoff.
Just beautiful words from Butch there. No better example of unity on this planet than what happens at the International Space Station, where Butch and Sonny are headed in just 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
3:30.
Atlas hydraulics at flight press.
Atlas boosters hydraulic steering systems now pressurized for launch.
Starliner's LAS prop valves are configured for launch. The propulsion valves that need to be open in the case of an abort from the pad.
3 minutes.
Pressurizing Atlas tanks. Securing LO2 topping.
250. FTS internal.
Flight software is in ascent mode. It is now set for the uphill climb.
$159. Vehicle internal. 155. Launch sequencer start. 150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries, and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled. 137. FTS armed. $120. OCU's armed. FCS count started. EDS ascent.
Starliner, last arm to auto.
Last arm auto.
Roger.
That call meaning if the emergency detection system on Atlas
minute.
detects something,
Block report range status.
Range green.
It will
54. POP started.
it will trigger the launch abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile
40.
out.
Atlas at flight press.
Centaur at flight press. 25.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Sonny.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
Commander Butch Wilmore there, calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent, and the guidance, navigation, and control officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Starboard passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
You got a good throttle up.
Starliner and Atlas. Looking good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Good SRB burnout.
Good SRB.
Now that the fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted, the Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Good handle.
Good handle.
That call, good handle, from Capcom Joshua Kutryk, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
CLT on that, good trajectory.
CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
Hello to all the viewers. This is Rich Roberts. I'm the guy down there in the lower left-hand corner of your viewing. What you're viewing is the launch of Boeing Starliner ULA crew flight launch there from Cape Canaveral, NASA. There's the Starliner capsule, and so they had a successful launch. And I'm pleased to be presenting this. And I go back to the first American manned space shot, Alan Shepard. I was 3 years old, and I remember that. I was 3 years old on that day in '61 when Alan Shepard launched. So
Decal subac. Decal.
So we have
Team on the ground reporting that they saw the ascent cover on top of Starliner that's been protecting the spacecraft's docking system through its climb into orbit. They saw that jettison as planned.
Staging was
Pleased to be
good. You have good
presenting
control.
this. Of course, there's a lot of other channels that are live
And now
streaming this, but
the second stage's
I'm a
two
space
Centaur
junkie,
engines
folks.
have ignited to continue pushing
Brand new
Starliner into space,
spacecraft.
fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
Starliner, you had good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
Okay, they're on their second stage now.
Plus 31.
Fantastic. Fantastic. They're well on their way.
Atlas control reporting
Congratulations,
booster performance offset of
Boeing
31
Starliner.
seconds of ISP, or specific impulse, relative to its design baseline of around 450.
All continuing to perform well, almost 7 minutes into today's flight.
And I would like to thank all the viewers. We have a total of 23. That's not counting the people over in X Live. We have 17 on Rumble, 1 on Locals, 2
Capcom
on
Joshua Kutrick.
YouTube, 2 on
Continuing
Twitch.
to pass good news up to
We
Starliner's
have
crew.
21.
Last one reporting that the Centaur upper stage remains in good condition and is performing well, pushing them into orbit.
21 on the X Live, folks. So I want to say thank you very much for your views. Greatly appreciate you sharing this, spending some time watching this historical launch. We often take space travel for granted, but this is
St. John's
third time's a charm for Starliner.
St. John's.
Starliner is now entering its first guided abort range, where Starliner would direct itself towards a specific location in the event of abort. In this case, just off the coast of St. John's, capital of the Canadian province of Newfoundland, Labrador.
Starliner MECO converged 11:52, 11:52. Good perf. You're at 34 to 36 seconds.
11:52, 34 seconds.
That call letting the crew know that the main engine cutoff, MECO, should happen just about on time, about 12 minutes into today's flight. Another good indication that Starliner's ascent is taking along exactly as expected. Main engine cutoff is a major milestone marking Starliner's arrival on orbit. Still got about 2.5 minutes until we get to that. With the spacecraft continuing to perform well, make its way towards orbit.
No action, Starliner, on the LCL. That's just the system coming up into controlling mode.
Outstanding. No action.
Once the main engine is cut off, the next step will be the launch vehicle separation. That's set to occur just short of 15 minutes after launch, when Starliner will separate from the rocket and fly free in space for the first time. Flight dynamics officer reporting that at this point, Starliner could potentially make an abort landing off the coast of Ireland.
Get cooling.
And they're, again, all continuing well, so we're not expecting to need that abort.
As Starliner is rapidly approaching orbital velocity, the abort region is only available for just over 1 minute, where Starliner would just continue up to orbit after that.
Seconds, D'Amico.
Just 30 seconds to go. Now until main engine cutoff, marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
Nominal MECO Starliner.
Nominal MECO.
And with that nominal MECO call, that's main engine cutoff. We've got good energy, meaning a good velocity for continuing to orbit, and a good plane, meaning Starliner's trajectory is aligned with the International Space Station for rendezvous tomorrow.
And with that, Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams returned to orbit. Individually, they are both extremely experienced astronauts.
14:5 to 14:52.
14:52.
They're both very experienced astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space between them. Starliner is also the third spacecraft that they've launched in. Both have traveled to the International Space Station via space shuttles and Soyuz and are now well on their way to repeating the journey via Starliner. It's also worth noting that Williams' role as pilot marks the first time that a woman has crewed a flight test of an orbital spacecraft.
Just a few seconds ago, you heard Capcom Joshua Kutrick calling up to Butch and Sunny. With the expected time, Starliner will separate from Centaur at about 14 minutes, 52 seconds into flight, just under 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
That is actually the last major milestone for Starliner's ascent. All the hard work is done, but we need for Starliner to be flying on its own before it can begin heading towards the International Space Station. There's a slight pause in the action here while Centaur repressurizes and does some attitude control. We'll get into the right orientation to send Centaur on its way and then jettison it and move into the right orientation for the orbital insertion burn, which will come about 31 minutes into flight.
No action on the cabin temp Starliner.
No action.
And about 10 seconds until an expected launch vehicle separation.
LV-SEP confirmed.
Good LV-SEP.
And now that Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage. We have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Sunny a smooth ride to space.
That is not the end of today's orbit activity, though. The team will now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes 31 minutes after flight. So that's still about 15 minutes away now. Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore will be getting their tablets out and doing a few other activities to get Starliner ready for that. And that will be one of the that will be the first in a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to the International Space Station.
And we're going to be still streaming for that burn, folks. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. So the mission is still continuing. Again, congratulations to Boeing Starliner, the crew, NASA, the folks there at ULA, and also thank you all those that are watching live right now with me. We have quite a bit of people here, and
Once
thank
again,
you for your time.
Starliner with astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams on board launched from Florida to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41 at 9:52 a.m. Central, 10:52 a.m. Eastern today, and they have now made it into orbit.
Your nominal TDRS show MDL is active. You have good targeting for OI.
Good targeting.
With the call for good targeting and information about Starliner's TDRS schedule being good, means that we've got good communication with the ground. TDRS is the tracking and relay data satellites that Starliner uses to talk to the ground, and the flight controllers on the ground are seeing the
Starliner.
dynamic.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you could relay a message to our brethren at ULA.
We're all listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, they've been a member of the family for a long time, but now it's official, and we want to welcome them to human spaceflight.
We all copy all and really appreciate the words.
And Houston Starliner, we are on the tablets and in insertion monitor.
Copy tablets, we're with you, insertion monitor.
So the crew have their tablets out, so no longer using the paper procedures now that the vehicle has stopped moving so quickly. So there's a handful of things that the crew's going to do now, mostly just prepare the inside of the cockpit so they are looking at the right data to prepare for the upcoming orbital insertion burn. The vehicle itself has done a few things recently. Started to power on the solar arrays on the back of Starliner and turning off several of the thrusters that are no longer needed at this phase of flight. Upcoming in about 4 minutes, Starliner is going to start to orient itself in the direction it needs to do the orbital insertion burn. And the crew inside the vehicle will be turning the wireless access point on and allow them to stream some of the data from the spacecraft onto their procedure tablets.
And Houston Starliner, last arm is off. Backup control switches, enable 1 on, enable 2 off. SMRCS is the mode.
We copy off. Enable 1 is on, enable 2 is off. SMRCS, you're in a good config.
Good config.
Your EXDV targets are on board and good.
Good EXDV.
Things will be pretty quiet as Starliner gets into position for the orbital insertion burn. That's still about 10 minutes away. Starliner is actually designed to be pretty autonomous and, in fact, docked with the space station on its last trip around without the help of any crew on board. But we do still want to know that if needed, Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams could take control and manually abort the spacecraft's approach to the station if they needed to. So to prove that, one of the few things on their agenda after they reach orbit will be to perform a test of the manual piloting mode.
This test will involve first pointing Starliner's nose towards the Earth so that its communication antenna on the back of the service module is pointed at the satellites, the teeter satellites that allow it to communicate with the team on the ground. They'll then move Starliner so that its solar arrays are pointed at the sun, showing they could charge Starliner's internal batteries as needed. And they'll follow that up with a demonstration of the star trackers, one of the ways that Starliner determines where it is in space, pointing Starliner away from Earth so that the system, the Vesta system, can get a good look at the stars.
The next step will be for the crew to manually speed Starliner up and then slow back down, which will slightly raise and then lower their orbit and prove that they can manually break away from the orbit that the space station is in if they needed to. At that point, they can move on to the last
Starliner,
items of the
still no
test.
action on your cabin temp. You're in a good config. It's 74 degrees in there. Yeah, that's just due to that T2 sensor sitting beside the light. So we're actually going to inhibit that particular sensor. We'll let you know when we bring it back online.
Okay, great. Looks like we're on our way to thrust align.
Concur.
Josh Kutrick calling up that the crew can ignore some alarms they're seeing on the temperatures inside Starliner. That's just a result of one of the sensors being next to a light that's causing it to show higher than it actually is. But it sounds like the crew are pretty comfortable and are getting into place for that orbital insertion. As I was saying, after they have manually broken away from the orbit of, proven that they can manually break away from the orbit of the space station, they are going to move on to the last items of their test for tonight. That's manually moving Starliner into the right orientation for re-entering the atmosphere, and then moving back into the attitude that will let them soak up some sun with the solar arrays and try a different method of manually charging the spacecraft's batteries. But again, once that all has to wait until after the orbital insertion burn. This is, again, the first of several burns that will put Starliner on its way to the International Space Station. We've still got about 6.5 minutes until we fire up the engines for that burn.
Okay, so we're off and running, and I want to say again, I appreciate the folks here that are watching.
We did not see the hand controller.
I
just wanted to know if you did.
I'm here on Rumble Studios, and I want to encourage those people that are watching on Locals, YouTube, Twitch, and we have 21 viewers over there on X Live to download the Rumble app. The app, I am using the app right now. It's a fantastic app for Rumble Studios. They have the regular Rumble to view, but the Rumble Studio app is fantastic. Go ahead and download both those Rumble apps. So you can get notifications from me on Rumble, because this is the type of broadcast I like doing. And be sure that you follow me also here on Rumble at Fireman Rich. And we're going to continue on with the broadcast here, but make sure you download the Rumble app. Once you download it, search for my channel. and follow the channel directions on the app. It's simple, at Fireman Rich here on Rumble. This will make sure that you'll get all the notifications. We have another launch tomorrow, and I'll probably be doing this. If you don't, and this is primarily for those people that are not on Rumble. You need to get on Rumble. And if you prefer to watch us on the big screen on Rumble, you can Rumble. I have the app on the big screen here. Rumble is it has the app available on Apple TV, Android TV.
TV on the ground saying that everything
Roku,
is
that's
looking
what
like
I'm
it's in
watching
the
right
right
now. That's on the
configuration
Roku
for
right
the
there,
orbital
folks.
insertion burn.
Okay,
Now less than
LG
5 minutes away.
and Samsung
Starliner is
TV. All
currently
you
about
need to
102
do is
miles above
search
the
for Rumble,
Mediterranean Sea,
and you'll find
heading
the app on all those platforms. So again, make
southeast
sure you download the Rumble app. Once
over
you
India in the
download it,
next few
search
minutes.
for my channel at Fireman Rich and follow me, so you get notifications on doing that as far as that goes. So it's greatly appreciated as far as Rumble. Rumble is a great place. I like promoting it. This is part of their marketing campaign. I'm reading here off the side. We have enough people that I'm able to do this.
Crew and ground control is noting
it gives
that
me a chance to
Starliner
really
is
promote
pointed in the direction it
Rumble
needs to for the
as
OI
far
burn.
as that goes. And I greatly appreciate it. So follow me on Rumble.
It should also be about the time that
Download
the
the app first of all. Okay, I know we got 21 people over there on X Live. You don't show up on the count, but
procedures, also charging
download the app.
keeping them topped up.
It's good that you're over
for
on
the
X
rest
Live.
of the
And Rumble
rendezvous.
Studios is great because we're
We unfortunately won't
broadcasting
have
on
a view
Rumble
of
here,
Williams and
locals,
Wilmore
YouTube,
as they work through this procedure.
Twitch, Facebook,
although we had a
public
view of them
Facebook,
from inside the
X
cabin
Live.
on the
I was going to
ground,
try. I think I hit the
Starliner
key
isn't
too
able to
close,
send that view to us
too much,
again until
or
it
too
gets to the
quickly on
International
the
Space
Instagram.
Station. So you'll be
We'll
seeing
get it
this
next time
screen
and stuff.
quite
I
a
don't
bit
think I'm on Instagram
as
right
it was
now, but I
getting,
think I
as
hit that
Starliner was getting
before we went
into
live. I got to go live
the
on
right
Rumble and then
position
hit
for the burn,
Instagram.
and actually
But
just now
please
you can see
download
some of
the
the engines
Rumble
firing
apps.
that help it
Okay, you have two
steer
apps. You
and
got the
move
regular
around in
Rumble for
space.
viewing,
And you can also
and
see
download
what
them both
attitude it's in
and
at any
follow
given
me at
time.
Fireman Rich here
Lots of
on
good information
Rumble.
on the
So
screen.
thank you very much. We're going to get back to the broadcast here.
A lot of this information actually directly mimics the views that the crew is seeing, especially the one in the upper left-hand panel. That is an exact copy of the display the crew is using for their attitude directional indicator. It also covers what mode their translational hand controller and the translational pointing is in. On the left side, on the right side, the pointing guidance, which tells the Starliner in automated mode which direction to point, or when in manual mode, which direction the crew needs to move the vehicle, like we're going to do in some of the manual piloting maneuvers. And following back up a little bit on the camera conversation, there is a planned upgrade of the Mustang system that we should see on our PCM-1 mission, and that will include live feeds from inside the cockpit.
And the Mustang system is the cameras that we were seeing views from earlier.
That's correct. There's a handful of cameras around the inside of Starliner. We often see the one from kind of beneath Butch and Sunny. That's given one of the better views without being directly right in their face while they're inside the cockpit during pre-launch. But once they're in orbit, they've gotten out of their seats a little bit, and we should be able to see a little bit more around the cabin.
Well, though, as you've already heard, continue to hear regular audio updates from the crew. Everything going well now that Starliner is just under 30 minutes into today's flight. We've got about a minute and a half left to go into that orbital insertion burn that will be kind of the final end cap, really, to today's ascent, which, again, took place at 10:52 a.m. Eastern when Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams launched inside the first Starliner to carry crew members on board from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41. They made it to orbit about 14 minutes later, and now we are just again waiting for this first of a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to a rendezvous with the International Space Station that is scheduled to take place at 12:15 p.m. Eastern, 11:15 a.m. Central tomorrow.
And we're coming up at about 40 seconds till the orbital insertion burn. This burn is going to take Starliner out of its slightly suborbital trajectory and push it up to an altitude that will allow us to catch up with ISS for a rendezvous later tomorrow.
"15 seconds left to go, and once again, you'll be able to see those engines firing on this digital screen here that show when the burn has started.
2 seconds. And flight controllers here in Houston, seeing 4 good OMACs, good burn.
We take a look. That was a good OI burn. You're maneuvering to NavCal 1.
Good OI burn, going to NavCal 1.
And with that call up, both crew and flight controllers agreeing that that was a good OI burn. I'm looking at the trajectory plot here in Mission Control. I see our trajectory pointing us directly up to the altitude we need to go to for the next burn. Right now, Starliner is moving into NavCal mode, or NavCal attitude. That's going to be the first of several positions that Starliner, directions that Starliner points itself to track some of the stars from the Starliner and update the position inside of the position orientation of Starliner inside of its guidance, navigation, and control algorithms.
And of course, you're seeing lots of happy faces and cheers here there in Florida. Everybody glad to see Starliner safely in orbit with Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams in tow, sending it on its way to the International Space Station for docking tomorrow at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, Starliner safely on orbit, has conducted a good orbital insertion burn, and is on its way.
And you can see that I guess they're breathing a sigh of relief. We have insertion burn, so they're in orbit on their way to the International Space Station. So they're well on their way. Let's see.
Starliner Houston.
Go ahead, Starliner Houston.
Yeah, you do have good cooling. The sublimator is working. We are watching it, though, because the water usage is just a little more than we thought we were going to see. You probably noticed that. It's a reason for the advisory there. From the ground, we'd like to swap you over to the other leg. So we're going to close sublimator leg 1, wait for about 60 seconds, and then open up leg 2. You'll see us do that. No impact or action.
So we have insertion, and
okay,
I guess I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast here. We got a good hour. This feed is off of NASA. Free feed. You can continue watching the NASA feed over there.
Joshua Kutrick there again, giving the crew some words about information they're seeing on orbit. This one related to sublimators, which are used to cool the spacecraft down. But just letting them know that there's nothing that they need to be concerned about. The team will keep watching that. In the meantime, as Starliner begins making its way to the International Space Station, we're going to check in with Rob Navius in the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Rob?
As far as
yeah, thanks very much, Brandy. With Starliner en route to the station, the work now just beginning for Wilmore and Williams. First up,
I
an
greatly
important
appreciate
rendezvous burn called the NC burn,
it's the third
which
time's
will
a
adjust
charm because
Starliner's
it was
altitude
canceled
relative
twice
to the
before.
station and begin to
And
refine its path to the orbital
again, we've been on
laboratory.
for about an hour.
Flight Dynamics will be
we
assessing the
possibly could
accuracy
be
of
back on.
Starliner's initial
We
trajectory
usually do a
and will
Monday,
update any
Monday,
adjustments to
Wednesday,
that
Friday
trajectory
between coffee,
for subsequent maneuvers to be
studios,
conducted over the next 24 hours.
places
Now, we're expecting to hear the first of
and
3 audio reports from the crew during their free flight on how the ride uphill to orbit was before they move into what are called far-field demonstrations of the vehicle. That will include manual piloting tasks and a manual translation control test that will prove Starliner's ability to execute a manual docking if required, as well as an abort capability prior to docking. Keep in mind, we're providing continuous coverage now of Starliner's flight to the International Space Station. On Thursday morning, rendezvous operations will begin in earnest shortly before 10 a.m. Eastern Time, leading to a targeted docking for Starliner to the station at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So please stay with us around the clock as we bring you every minute of Starliner's
with that,
flight.
you all have a great one.
For now, we're going to sign off from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston and go back to Megan, Dee, and Mike Fink at the Cape.
As always, peace.
Hey, and welcome back to the Space Coast of Florida, where about 36 minutes ago, we witnessed the launch of a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket carrying the first 2 astronauts, NASA's Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams, inside Boeing's